Good morning, this is the Lonely Bushcrafter. I've come up to my camp this morning, it's quite early. It was just such a lovely morning. It was a horrible night, rain, wind, tail end of the storm that we imported from America. I think it's the tail end of the hurricane that you had there. Um, it blew up rough, nothing nasty. It was just not very nice to be outside, and I've now had my piece spoilt by a helicopter, but there you go. I looked out this morning and the sun was up. It was showery, but I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go up on the moor. Here we go. It's probably the Royal Marines. Probably the Royal Marines on exercise. They use Dartmoor extensively, which is good because they are a fine fighting force. They're probably among the best in the world. I've had the pleasure and honour to work with a few over the years, and they are great guys. I've also worked with ex Special Air Service, ex Special Boat Squadron, and obviously, as I said, the Royal Marines, and they're all great guys. Amazing sense of humour, considering what some of them have seen. But getting back to this place, I came up this morning because the weather's lovely, and just the scenes I've shown before I start talking, it's idyllic up here. When the sun's out, it does make you forget the woes of the world. You can feel nature at work. There are enormous numbers of fungi around at the moment. Up in the woods just to the right of me, there's heaps. I'm not good enough to identify the edible ones. I'm sure I'm missing an absolute feast. One of the things I'm keen on doing right now, at the moment, is learning to be able to identify woodland fungi, because this is the time of year. I mean, they're growing in abundance. I'm just looking down in front of me now, and there's a little stick with tiny little white, I don't even know what they are, I can't really see from here, but in a minute I'll have a look, may even post some up. But they're tiny, they're probably 1 or 2 millimeters across, and it's just everywhere you look. I mean, I've seen some really weird looking ones. I think one of the ones I've seen is a cauliflower fungus. It looks like cauliflower or a bag of popcorn all stuck together in one lump. It's about 1 foot across, and I'm pretty sure that it's edible, but at the moment I'm not willing to take that risk, certainly not on my own. This is just a little bit of time out for me. I've brewed some coffee as usual. I'm not up here, as some people might think, swigging whiskey. I'm here drinking coffee because I just appreciate being up here. Not everybody has this 10 minutes from their home, 10 minutes drive. I think I'm very lucky to have Dartmoor. Literally, you leave the edge of Plymouth, it doesn't sort of peter out into suburbs, it just stops. You end up at a place called Roborough, you hit this roundabout and you're on Dartmoor. This is quite a tame part of the moor. What I like about it is the sound of the river, sound of nature, and just the solitude. It's not very far from the road, but it's in such a position that you don't see people here. I've only ever caught sight of a couple of people, and that's from usually 200 or 300 yards off, or a dog's come pounding through, had a sniff and buggered off again. But it's a great place to observe from. I mean, you can see people. It's amazing how people don't realise how easy they are to spot. They come, what they think is quietly walking through the woods, and you'll hear a crack of a twig, or a rustling noise, and it travels a long way. So learning to progress quietly through a wood is quite a skill. You have to look where you're putting your feet, you have to look where you're going, you have to watch. I was trying this out, trying to walk as quietly as I could, and I was concentrating so much on the floor that I walked straight into a branch. Nearly knocked myself out. Not very clever, but it's a lesson learnt. And I, you know, every time I come up here I learn something new. I learnt 5 minutes ago that whilst I was filming the beautiful glittering sunlight off the water, not to take my eye off my coffee for a second because it boiled over. So it's just a matter of learning every time. If you give up on learning, you give up on life. I'm a firm believer that you need to learn something new every day, and if you have a new experience, don't just blank it from your memory. Keep it sharp, so that if you're in the situation again, you're prepared. If you don't, you're just going to make the same mistake twice, and that really is idiotic. If you don't learn from your mistakes, then there's no point making them. And everybody makes mistakes. Everybody, I've seen people on various forums saying, "Oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm perfect. I can survive in the woods. I can subsist. I can find food. I can find fresh water." Well, they're fooling themselves, because not every situation lends itself towards survival. Sometimes you have to move on. Get out of the situation you're in, that's your survival. Evacuate from where you are. Get to somewhere new. But here, I picked this spot because I can see in all directions. I've got the cover of a 70-degree bank behind me. If anyone's coming down there, I can hear it in a second. Coming away from the other side of me here, behind the camera as it were, I can see 200-300 yards through the trees, and it's nearly all bog. So if someone's trying to get through there, they've got to get through bog and then get through a river. Now the river's not deep, I mean it's ankle deep, but it's noisy. You get into the water there, you're going to make a noise. I'm going to leave it now just for the minute. I'm going to have my coffee, have a little bit of a breather, and then I may do a little bit more filming on the way out, just to show you how quick it is to get back to the road from where I'm actually sitting. But the cover is incredible. I'm not trying to hide, it's just an exercise. I like a bit of stealth camping. I like the whole idea of being on land, nobody knows you're there. When you've left, nobody knows you've been there. That to me is true camping. That's a strange noise. It comes over on the camera. Sounds like a hawk. Being able to be invisible is quite a rare treat these days, because especially in Britain we have a big population for the actual area. Could be rooks, some sort of carrion. Yeah, we haven't got a lot of space. You cross the channel to France and you realise how much empty space there is in France. Here we tend to be very on top of each other. You go to places and they don't have terraces of houses, they have separate houses, or at the very worst semi-detached. Towns and cities here, they jam everybody in. Terraces of houses on either side of a narrow road. It's because the population's high. We've got approaching 70 million people on this tiny island, and these spaces, these national parks, are a way of getting away from it. The government, however, a while back were talking about selling the national parks to private enterprise. That would be a huge mistake. This belongs to the country. It belongs to me, it belongs to anybody else who's resident here. If they sell it, they're selling something that belongs to me and belongs to everybody else who makes use of it, and even people who don't make use of it. So in other words, they're selling something that doesn't belong to them. So I hope that never happens. It has happened with other publicly owned properties in the past under a similar government. I don't like the way, how can you sell peace of mind? Are they trying to improve the nation's health, or what do? Sell off playgrounds, sell off playing fields, places where children, teenagers can go and kick a ball about, just be out in the fresh air. Get rid of that. You're getting rid of a big chunk of what it is to be free. You might as well live in a pile of tin boxes otherwise, with no grass. I had somebody ages ago, I met someone who'd moved down from Leeds up in the north of England, and they'd moved to what is considered quite a rough housing estate in Plymouth, and they thought they'd come to live in heaven. And I said, why is it so great? And they said, well, there's open land, there's grassland, there's trees. Where I come from in Leeds, there's nothing. There's not a bit of wood standing. There's just nothing. There's derelict, burnt out houses. There's burnt out cars. There's no green land. There's nothing. And they came here to this rough estate, supposedly rough council estate, and told me that they thought they'd had a lottery win, effectively, and they were now living in the best place they'd ever been to. It just shows the comparison. Some of the big, I come from Birmingham in the centre of England, and you can go for 10, 15, 20 miles and not see any countryside because it's solidly built up. These cities are expanding. We need to make good use of the spare land that, like for example here, the spare land that we have available to us, or we'll lose it. Use it or lose it. People have forgotten that they've got legs. They'd rather drive to the McDonald's, drive to any sort of drive-through. I'm not specifying McDonald's. I've never bought anything from there. It's just not my thing. But the idea of driving somewhere, sitting in a queue in a car, and then coming up to a little window and receiving fried goods in a bag that you then eat in the car, is not my idea of luxury. It's not my idea of convenience. When you can make a wonderful cup of coffee in about 3-4 minutes for pennies, why would you bother queuing up for it? A substandard product made by people who don't care what they're doing because they're earning a minimum wage. It beats me. I saw a queue of 50 cars outside a Costa Coffee in a industrial estate. I thought, what are they waiting for? And it beggars belief. I just think, why would you do that? But then I'm not everybody. I choose to be a little bit of an individual. I'm not a sheep. I like to stray from the herd. I think it's a very, very good thing to do. Otherwise, the government says jump and you say how high. And I think that's always a very dangerous state to be in. The more I look at Britain, the more you see cameras. Surveillance cameras are everywhere in this country. We have actually got 1984. We've even got those damn, I don't know what they're called. They're like a home hub. And you ask it, can you order me some more? Can you order me some McDonald's? Can you order me some, whatever? And it does it for you. But what I don't understand is how people don't see that they're monitoring you. You browse some boots on a website, on Google, within a day you're getting adverts on Facebook and YouTube saying, what about these boots? And you think, well, hang on a minute, I was looking at those the other day. So they're clearly at a very, very small level. I mean, they're talking about me. I'm not a government, I'm not a council, I'm an individual, and these people are targeting me with their adverts, which annoys the hell out of me because I rarely watch television, but I certainly don't like adverts. If I want something, I'll go and look for it. On that, I'll look for some peace and quiet. As I say, I may get back to you once I start walking out of the woods. So on that note, see you later.